Hello everyone, welcome back to our TOEFL iBT speaking series. This is video 2. In this video we will be talking about the TOEFL iBT speaking section overall, the 6 tasks that you will need to prepare for and complete during the exam. So to build from last week, let me remind you that the TOEFL speaking section takes place after the break. There is a 10-minute break after you finish the comprehension parts, so reading and listening. You will take a short break and you will be able to return to the production parts, the speaking and the writing, re-energized, hopefully fresh. The speaking and writing parts of the test are actually very stressful, particularly the speaking part. So it's important to get some rest, drink some water, and be prepared as you sit down and refocus for the second half of the test. So the entire speaking part only takes 20 minutes. It is the shortest part of the TOEFL iBT, but it is often referred to as the most stressful because it is so short. Okay, so what is the structure of the speaking section? Well, the first thing you have to know is that there are 6 tasks, and this is the way it is structured. It doesn't change. There will be 6 tasks on the TOEFL iBT speaking section. The first 2 tasks, task 1 and task 2, are called the independent tasks. Now, why are they called independent tasks? It's because there is only a direct question and you focus on your own thoughts and experiences and opinions. That's all you need to do. Your answers come from yourself. You don't need to do anything else. The rest of the tasks, tasks 3, 4, 5, and 6, are called the integrated tasks. They're called integrated because you have to integrate not just your speaking skills, but also your listening and or reading skills. So you'll need to listen to a passage or read a passage and then integrate what you have learned into your speaking. So that's why they're called the integrated tasks. And of course, the integrated tasks are a little bit more complicated than the independent tasks. So 6 tasks, that's all. So for the first 2 tasks, the independent tasks, let me just reiterate a bit. You will only talk about your personal experiences and opinions. So it's a very good idea to start thinking about your personal experiences and opinions in English and practice talking about them before you take the test. For the integrated tasks, you will listen and or read materials, and very importantly, you will need to be able to summarize what you have read and or listened to. Okay, so for the integrated tasks, it's important to know, since there are 4, 2 will involve in university level lectures. You will listen to an instructor give a short talk, and then you will have to summarize. The other 2 are about university student life, which means they can be conversations between 2 students or between a student and a professor, or sometimes between a student and a member of staff. So maybe a librarian or an administrator, someone who works in an office. And so all of the situations you will encounter in the 2 tasks about university student life involve things that can be academic, but sometimes not entirely academic. Sometimes they will involve campus life, like cafeterias, libraries, things like this. Okay. The most important thing you need to know is that the TOEFL iBT speaking section is incredibly structured in terms of time as well. So the independent tasks are always structured like this. You will be asked a question. You will have 15 seconds. That's a very short amount of time
15 seconds to prepare, and then 45 seconds to speak. That's not a lot of time, actually. So you really need to practice reacting quickly and speaking clearly. For the integrated tasks, of course, you will read and listen or listen, depending on which tasks. And then you will have 20 to 30 seconds to prepare, and you will speak for 60 seconds. So not a lot of time, actually, if you add it all up. At most, you will be talking between 5 to 6 minutes. The amount of time you will speak. But actually, this is plenty of time to assess your speaking abilities. One of the things you should remember about the way it is structured, the time structure, is it is intentionally meant to be stressful. Don't think that it is because of your abilities, because you're not used to speaking English, that you feel very stressed during the speaking section. It is meant to be stressful. It is meant to see how well you can perform and react and speak under time cramps. So you need to practice using your time. Practice using the 45 seconds that you have, the 60 seconds you have, and the preparation. Practice using these short periods of time strategically during your practice. And of course, you need to practice how you will answer. Practice the structures carefully. In general, remember that you should give your main idea first. We'll talk about this more in future videos to come, but always remember that give your main idea first, followed by your supporting details. It's not that good an idea to start more generally and then talk about details and then end strongly, because sometimes you won't have enough time. It's a very good idea to start with the main idea. That's important key takeaway. Let me give you all some more details about the 6 tasks, and particularly some examples of the 2 independent tasks. So task 1 is always what we call an open choice question. Now, it's easier if we give some examples. For instance, what is your favorite novel? There are many possibilities, right? It's an open question, but you need to choose one very quickly. Who is your most important mentor? Another example. Many different possibilities. Hopefully, you need to choose one. So my suggestion to you, of course, is to answer the question directly and give your reasons, and that's it. Okay, so this is the first task, the open choice question. Now, the difference between an open choice and the second task, the first task and the second task, is that the second task is a limited choice question. What that means is you will have 2 choices. For instance, would you prefer to live in the city or in the countryside? That's a limited choice, right? You have to choose, and you have to explain your reasoning, explain with details. Here's another example. Some people like to work in groups, and others prefer to work alone. Which do you prefer and why? So very importantly, you need to make a choice. You can't say, there are benefits of both, etc. Make a choice and give your reasons. If you have time, you can concede a point, but only if you have time. So what does it mean to concede a point? You can say, for instance, I would prefer to live in the countryside for these reasons. There is some good to living in the city. However, okay, that is a concession. You concede this point only if you have time. So another example would be, do you prefer to watch movies at home or in a movie theater? So explain why. You can say, I prefer to watch movies at home because it's more relaxing. You can pause it. You can invite friends. Of course, watching a movie in a movie theater can be more exciting. The sound is better. However, I still prefer to watch movies at home for the most part. So you can give your reasoning, concede a point if your time permits, and then finally give a conclusion. So those are some examples of tasks 1 and 2. So obviously for tasks 3 to 6, since they are integrated, they involve longer texts that we can't get into in this general discussion. However, it's important to know how they're structured. Tasks 3 and 4 require reading and listening. So you'll have to read a short passage or read some short information and then listen to a conversation or a lecture. So task 3 will be the conversation. Task 4 will include the lecture. You'll be given about 60 seconds to read, and then you will listen. The passage should last between 1 to 2 minutes, and then you'll need to summarize. It's important to note here that for tasks 3 and 4, that the reading provides some context, it provides some details, but the majority, the biggest task, the main task is to summarize the listening. So you shouldn't dwell on the reading too long. You have to focus primarily on the listening. This will be your main speaking task. Now for tasks 5 and 6, there will be no reading. You will only listen. And of course, the conversations and the lectures will be rather long. It will be a longer conversation or a longer lecture passage. Very importantly, for task 5, you will not only be asked to summarize, but you'll also be asked to provide your own opinion. Normally, this is a limited choice question. You will voice your own opinion. This is very special for the integrated task. So, to review, remember that there are 6 tasks on the TOEFL speaking section. Task 1 is independent, open choice. Task 2 is also independent, limited choice. Task 3 is integrated. You will read and listen to a conversation. Task 4, also integrated, reading plus listening, lecture. Task 5 is listening only of a conversation. And task 6 is listening only of lecture. A few closing thoughts before we end for today. Remember that the time structure is very stressful. So the first piece of advice that I can give you in practicing is to understand how long 15, 30, 45, and 60 seconds feels. So practice each of these. Use a clock and practice how each of these times feel when you are under stress and how much you are able to speak. You'll feel actually at the beginning you'll underestimate or overestimate how much time that you have. So the first thing that you can do to prepare is to practice how these different times feel under pressure. The second thing that I would suggest is to practice organizing your thoughts with the main idea first. So make a decision first and then follow by details. It's easy to give details first, give your reasoning first and then give conclusion. But for the sake of the TOEFL speaking section, practice organizing your thoughts in a way, delivering your thoughts in a way in which you give the main idea first and then give details. My last suggestion is you should consider and practice a variety of different topics. I'll give you some more details in the following weeks, but really think about your life in general, your university life in general, different aspects, and ask yourself, if you were to speak about any of these topics in English, what would you say? Okay, it's a very good idea to start thinking about these ideas, these themes of school and daily life before you actually practice the questions.
Thank you so much for watching this video. In the next video, we will be talking about some general advice, some general preparation techniques for the TOEFL iBT. So stay tuned.